comes as no surprise that becoming an adult today is a different experience than when it was half a century ago. How teenagers now transition into adulthood have gone through seismic shifts, influenced by a growing dependence on technology and changing expectations. It can seem hard for the younger generation to put themselves out there in a world so different than before. These changes have redefined what it means to mature into adulthood, which presents new challenges as well as opportunities. Let's compare the modern nuances of my generation and assess them against the nuances of my father's generation 50 years ago to help shape the way that young adults like myself go about their personal lives. So Dad, where would you start comparing your era to mine?
Marcos, one cross-generational topic that has resonated since the dawn of time is the primal urge for parents to make sure their kids are safe. It's not something that we think about 24/7 as a parent, but it is something that is always there under the surface. Example, when my mom was driving us to school, if she had to brake very suddenly, she would automatically, intuitively lean over with her right arm in front of us and turn into a human seatbelt. She knew that cars needed seatbelts even before the government did.
That's funny, Dad, because getting into a car these days is more like getting ready for a space mission. It's impossible to start a trip without the double-strap seat belts, the constant GPS, and precise cameras all around the vehicle. Car safety has changed a whole lot, but that instinct that parents have to protect and ensure safety for their children still stays the same. You know, Dad, Bluetooth calls now in cars have become the new norm.
Absolutely. And yes, true, you can call your family and friends and business from the car, but for a parent, being able to call the police or an ambulance or a tow truck also is super important. No more laughter, please, but calling and telephoning back in my day looked a little bit like this when I was a very, very young boy. I'm at home waiting in line to stick my finger in the rotary telephone to go through all those motions to make some phone calls. And if you're walking about, you're in the neighborhood and you've got to call somebody, you've got to go to the telephone booth, be it this one in the UK or the ones we had back in the States. Just imagine having to put in nickels and quarters and everything just to keep a phone call going, Marcus.
Communicating has changed a whole lot, Dad. I'm sure you're aware by now, but a few taps on a screen on platforms such as WhatsApp, Instagram, and Snapchat have proved miles more effective than your past methods. Encrypted calls have also allowed more privacy to be maintained in my daily life. Still though, that instinct that we have to share and stay connected hasn't changed one bit. Let's just hope that this modern privilege we have can be used for good. Right, Dad?
Marcus, I wish I could say that all these technological advances were always for the good, but that's not necessarily the case. True, we didn't have cyberbullying, online bullying back in my day, but guess what? We had bullies. We knew who they were, we knew where they sat, we knew we had to deal with them either in the hallway or the playground, and guess what? We had to deal with it ourselves. But it was a local problem. It was not going to go much further than that.
The way bullying has changed from your generation to mine is impossible to overstate. These days, anxieties and insecurities have seen shifts with the widespread usage of social media now to transfer hateful comments. Still though, even though bullying styles have changed a whole lot, the origin of it all still stays the same. Some kids are mean, and bad decisions can live forever. Speaking of making bad decisions, parents are still tasked with punishing their children. These days, taking away devices and liberties outside the home have proven to be the go-to methods for parents. Guidance and discussions over questionable actions have allowed for a more thoughtful approach to punishment. What about you, Dad?
Yeah. Well, Marcos, compassionate coaching on the punishment front was not necessarily part of the game back then. I tell you what, something went wrong, somebody did something wrong, and there was an immediate decision for corrective action. You break a window with a baseball, someone's walking 5 kilometers to get a new window, and it's not mom and dad, I can tell you that much. 2 minutes late, curfew, Saturday night, you're grounded. The only question is 1 week or 2. And every now and then, and it was just the way it was back then, a spanking might have been in order.
Well, Dad, what I can assure you is that even between generations, parents still struggle with how to find the right formula to help build their children's character. Speaking of character-defining moments, we all know too well that tobacco and alcohol are two of the biggest don't-dos of my generation. The usage of the two has been steadily declining in recent decades, and awareness for the health risks that come with these products have not only been accepted, but embraced.
Marcos, in my day, when I was a little boy, they did not even know, the adults in the room, did not even know all of the hazards and the health risk of smoking and drinking. Pregnant women would think nothing of having a cigarette, maybe a glass or two of wine, without even thinking for a second. They were not bad mothers. They just didn't know better. And just to be honest, the science had just not caught up with all the risk that we know about so well today.
Although science has evolved greatly, the fact that these bad habits have stayed with us today shows just how much they become a part of our lives. Speaking of, when you think of bad habits, what's another thing that comes to mind? I'm sure fast food and soft drinks are on the top of that list. These days, companies are adding sweeteners, products, and fillerings to our food, increasing not only our metabolism, but weight. This is a massive change from the wholehearted meals I think of from my father's generation. These sneaky ingredients and processed meats, and the fact that so much of the world now has instant access to all these foods, show just how much eating habits have become a part of my life.
Marcos, it's true that we had more home-cooked meals back then. Absolutely true. But guess what? We also had soft drinks. We also had Coke. We also had McDonald's. But guess what? It wasn't something you did very often. It was a special treat. Nobody talked about, obsessed about calories. And if anybody ever mentioned diet, here's how it worked. Feeling a little bit soft right here? Why don't you eat a little bit less and go for a run in the park?
Seems to me that major companies have stayed at the pinnacle of popularity between generations. Although the relationship that my generation and yours has had on nutrition has really changed.
Yeah, Marcos, absolutely. And talking about food right now is an automatic transition to the kitchen and to the dining room. The dining room is where so much happens in the family. That's where you talk, you catch up on the day, the kids pretend like they have to answer the parents, how was your day at school? But there were a couple of topics, one in particular that was completely taboo. It did not get talked about at that time, and that was family finances. They did not talk about credit cards, utility bills, what it's costing left and right, mortgage rates, absolutely not going to be talked about. They needed and thought it was best to protect the kids from those kind of family dynamics. And the talk could have been very interesting. Instead of 5%, 4% interest rates, mortgage rates now for your homes, think about 18+% mortgage rates back then.
Seems to me as though families are increasingly addressing finances at home with the family. Families are increasingly addressing budget, finances, and savings with the younger generation, planting early seeds for financial literacy. This shift has also helped kids like me prepare for future financial decisions. For example, 250-euro shoes or a whole week of summer camp? I'll let you decide. These points described today focus on how different generations tackle similar daily topics and the effects that they have had on society. Anyone listening here today will hopefully gather the vast differences between our generations. I think we made that pretty clear. But what we also hoped you realize was, in reality, the striking similarities between the childhoods of before and the childhoods of the future, growing up in a changing world. Thank you.